Have you ever hit a plateau? I'm sure you have if you've been training long enough. I certainly have. I've hit a few in my various disciplines of sports that I've done over the years. There are 100, hell, maybe even 1,000 reasons why you may hit a plateau. But one of the big ones is that the training you're doing now might not take you to that next step. The thing that brought you to where you are might not take you further. That's what we're going to talk about today. How the strategies that brought you your current level of success just might not be enough to get you to the next step. All right, let's get into it. Welcome to the Trail and Ultra Running Training Podcast. My name is Will Franz, and I'm here to help you improve your training so you can have more fun out on the trails. Titled this why you've stopped making progress, and to be fair, that is probably a little bit of an overstatement because there are 100, 1,000 reasons why you might have plateaued in your training or whatever you're trying to achieve. But this is, your training might just be bad. You might not be eating enough. There's all sorts of very simple reasons. You might not care about it anymore. But one of the big ones that we see a plateau is that success breeds deficits. I forget where I heard that first. I really wish I could credit that quote to someone. I tried to look it up and I could not. But success breeds deficits, meaning that as you get more and more success, you will start to see cracks in the foundation, or things that you're not doing will start to show up in increasingly bigger ways. We often hear about this, or maybe even experienced it if you are unlucky enough to be there, as the curse of the middle manager, or this person, your boss, who was really good at their job of widget maker, or my past life, snowcat driver, right? And then once you continue to do really well at making snow flat, your runs are always flat, and we always do exactly what we need to do. We tie them in. We never leave problems anywhere. Nobody has gotten hurt on your stuff. And you're organized. You're a decent team leader. Then you get promoted, and now you don't drive snowcats anymore. You talk to other people about how to drive snowcats. You're working in hiring. You are budgeting. You're half of your job is to figure out how to make payroll and budget. So the thing that you were very good at doing, driving snowcats, you don't ever do anymore. You were so good at it, you got promoted to never do that thing you were good at anymore. And now you have to figure out an entirely different set of skills. And this is often the same kind of thing that we see when it comes to training. If you are running an ultramarathon, I would assume you like running. If not, then you should probably find a different sport because you're going to do a lot of it. And there's other things to do that are hard and challenging, etc. So if you're running an ultramarathon, I would assume at least at some point in your history that you enjoyed running, and you enjoyed running a lot. And when many of us start running, sometimes we liked it from as a kid. Sometimes we were just trying to lose a little body fat. Either way, at some point you decided I really like this activity. I'm going to keep doing it. And then you keep running more, and we go maybe sign up for a 5K, and you're like, that was fun. I would love to do something longer. And then we do a 10K or a marathon, and we get to this point where we're no longer running 20 miles a week. We're running 50 miles a week, multiple days out of the week, and we just keep adding on to our running volume because that's what worked in the beginning. And at some point, especially if you weren't running from young childhood, because when we're all really little kids, we tend to move really well. Watch a child squat, it is picture perfect. I couldn't teach someone to squat better than that. It's beautiful. Same with kids when they run. they often like look goofy and flaily, but generally like we don't see a ton of knee valgus. Like they haven't had enough time to create as many movement deficiencies as someone like I have by the time I'm 30 and have done a bunch of sports and have like abused my body to no end. So, if you've been running from a very young age, oftentimes like you can get away with just running a lot because your movement patterns are really good. You've built the right strength to get you where you need to go. But a lot of the time, we don't necessarily start when we're young. We start when we're 30. Let's use me as an example. I think I started when I was like 31. And as a result, if you just keep running, we're going to have those weird movement patterns. For me, it was that my glutes didn't like to pull their weight, and especially because they are as big as they are, they should be pulling quite a bit of weight. And since they were just kind of like tagging along for the party, they were kind of dead weight back there, not creating very good drive and not doing their job. This put a lot more stress on my calf and my foot. And because I openly scaled my running too fast last year, this is how I ended up with plantar fasciitis, because I put way too much stress way too quickly on a muscle that wasn't ready to be there. I had movement patterns that weren't great for running. They're great for picking heavy stuff up off the ground or for sprinting, but not for running for 50 miles. And as a result, we ended up with plantar fasciitis and some other stuff. I often see this with trail runners as well, with a like strained soleus, like your Achilles tendon issue, your calf issue, when you have that feeling like you were running and then all of a sudden there's like a softball in your calf that just like won't let go. Like that's often a strained soleus. Not always. I can't diagnose you through a computer screen, but we often end up with that issue. Hey everyone, I've decided to stop doing ads for this podcast, at least for the time being. I just don't think they're a good use of anybody's time. So instead of that, I just have a simple ask. If you find this information valuable, please tell someone about it. Either hit the like or subscribe buttons on your preferred platform, share it with somebody, or you could even just head over to the Trail and Ultra Running Training Group on Facebook, and I'd appreciate that as well. I'm just trying to make more good, free information for people so we can all get better at running on the trails. And if we can spread the tribe, that would be great. Thank you, and let's get to the podcast. And this is because most of us don't do a ton of strength training. If we do, we might see someone on Instagram somewhere recommend that you should do calf raises for runners to keep your ankle strong. Great recommendation. But they will often do this like straight-legged variety where you lock your knee out and you press straight up. That doesn't train your soleus. Your soleus is a deeper muscle and your knee has to be bent for anything to work. So you have to bend your knee to like 90 degrees and then press your body way up. Or if you're a member of a gym, you can just use a seated calf raise machine. So we are running constantly. This muscle is underused in running or underactivated in running. We're using it a lot though. And especially if like our glutes aren't pulling their weight and other things are there, like our calf ends up taking a ton of it, especially if we go from road running to hilly ultras, because every step you take uphill, you throw a ton of your body weight, probably 7 to 9 times, depending on which study you read, through your calf, and then your soleus strains or pulls or, God forbid, tears, right? Like this is the kind of issues we have. And this is what I mean by success breeds deficits. You've been running a lot, and you keep running a lot, and you keep running, and you keep getting better at running, and then suddenly you learn that all of your successes at running worked up until a point. And then that extra step of success from like, be it 25 to 30 miles or whatever it is, from like flat marathon to trail marathon, you learned that your calf wasn't strong enough. So we either got injured or we need to start doing strength training or something. But a lot of the time, the success that you have is going to show you the places you're lacking. We'll see this from everything to strained soleuses, to plantar fasciitis, to high hamstring issues. We also see this all the time with nutrition stuff, especially if like a decent marathoner, like a sub 4-hour marathoner, that's pretty good. It's better than I could do, especially right now. And if you take someone who can run a marathon in sub 4 hours, and do it pretty well, and they're used to doing that, they have figured out how to toe the line of not hitting the wall, so they're fueling a lot. They're hydrating well enough for whatever their time is in the marathon, but not much longer than that, because most races you're going to finish somewhat dehydrated, and we can only finish so dehydrated. So that stacks up over time. This is often why you have nausea issues at mile 40 of your ultra, right? And then we're going to see you not able to ingest food once you get dehydrated. So you have this 4-hour marathoner. Let's call it 3:30. Make it even better. 3:30 marathoner. They would have bonked like right in the 2 to 2.5 hour range. They've learned how to not bonk or hit the wall for like an extra hour. They've fueled that really well. Maybe their fueling plan's like 60 grams of carbs an hour. It's a little on the low side, but it should do the job for many people. And they hydrate just enough so that they can cross that finish line, maybe losing a pound or two of water, but not having to pee a lot, because that's a big thing on the marathon. You don't necessarily want to be taking bathroom breaks. And not everybody's super comfortable just peeing in their pants. So I wouldn't be. So if we do this whole marathon thing and we get really good at that, and then you decide to go do a trail, ultra, your 3:30 marathon tactics are not going to carry you for, let's call it 6 hours. You're going to go run a 50K in 6 hours. Decent time, right? So if we're going to do that, you're not going to have that same plan that took you to that 3:30 marathon will not get you across that 50K finish line in 6 hours. If you try to do that, you're going to end up pretty significantly dehydrated. You're probably going to end up short on glycogen as a result. You won't be able to digest food, and then you're going to hit the wall. You're like, why was that so hard? I'm really fast. But we didn't actually plan. We didn't prep our food. We didn't take into account that you actually burn a ton more calories going uphill than you do on flat ground. So you have found your deficit. Your nutrition and hydration plan, while absolutely fine for a road, city, fairly flat marathon, does not carry you another 6 miles. And yes, it's only 6 miles, but when that 6 miles has when those 30 miles collectively, 31 miles, have a bunch of collective elevation gain and incline and unstable surfaces, we add a bunch of time. When you add a bunch of time in the heat, we learn that maybe we're missing something. And this is just how progress happens. A lot of the time you learn what you're missing or what your training's missing or what you're just not quite good enough at doing by failing a little bit. If we catch it early, maybe you don't end up actually injuring yourself. Running's a weird sport. I've said this in the past, in the sense that like if we look at baseball, if your throw's off, the ball won't go where you want it to go, or it won't go there very fast. Same with basketball. I used to play ultimate frisbee. Like if my patterning for my throw was off, the first indication for me was not that my shoulder hurt, it's that the disc went into the ground. Running, sometimes your first indication that your form isn't very good is you get hurt. And I've been talking with a few people lately who joined me in coaching, and it's been 3 people in the last month who've been complaining about shin splints, because shin splints sucks. I'm not saying that they shouldn't be complaining. They're terrible. I've had them. I do not recommend them. But if we look at all of these people who have them, their cadence is low. And a lot of the time you end up with shin splints because you overstride. And we often can fix overstriding simply by increasing your cadence or your steps per minute. So we're working on that. And the shin splints are disappearing. All these people are decent runners. Many of them have been running, a couple of them have been running longer than I have, but they just didn't really know what to look for. Once we were able to correct the cadence issue, one with the metronome and another with music, we were able to improve the shin splints in like a week, because it's not that hard. You just have to know what you're looking for, and you have to know what that deficit is that you found. So that is kind of all I have for today. I just wanted to say, like, your success that got you to level 1 often will not get you to level 2. Or, probably more accurately, your success that got you to level 1 just won't get you there as quickly as you want to get there. Because yes, like if we go back to the soleus strain idea, you could just run more. You could scale your volume really slowly. You could be super diligent about the 10% rule, or maybe even more. Like maybe we do a 5% rule where you barely increase your running volume and you really focus on form and you get like really anal about taking video of yourself and fixing it and doing all that. Or you could do some weighted calf raises with your knees bent, and that will fix it a lot faster. And I don't care which one you do. I really hate being injured. I hate seeing people injured, especially when it comes to activity. Because if I can't be active, then I get really depressed and we end up in this stupid cycle. And I'm sure that lines home with some of you. So think, if I'm having problems, the things that got me to my current level of success are probably not going to get me to the next one. So success breeds deficits. I wish I could attribute that quote to someone. And I hope you all have a good rest of your night. I'm going to go tear some Brussels sprouts out of the oven and have some dinner. Hope you have a good one. Thank you for listening to the Trail and Ultra Running Training Podcast. Honestly, I'm still surprised and honored that anybody wants to hear what I have to say, so thank you. To be clear, not a doctor, nor a registered dietitian, or any other kind of medical professional. I'm a personal trainer, a nutrition coach, and a running coach, and I have a passion for training trail runners. You should always speak with a qualified medical professional before making any changes to your training or nutrition program. If you enjoyed the podcast or found it helpful, please take a second to leave a rating or review. I'd really appreciate it. Or you could just share it with someone for whom you think it might be helpful. I make these kinds of things in order to provide more quality, free resources to people, so the more people who hear it, the better. If you want more of this information, please head to the Trail and Ultra Running Training group on Facebook, where we discuss all aspects of training so you can have more fun doing the sport that you love. Thank you again for listening.